What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Flying solo this morning. We'll see if some of the guys jump in here. They're probably still crashed out from last night, I would imagine. I know Tim celebrated a birthday, so shout out to Tim. Happy birthday to you, buddy. I'm sure you guys are maybe out of town traveling, doing something fun, but you never know when those knuckleheads might jump in here for sure. But let's do this. Let's get the show kicked off right. I see a bunch of people in the chat already. Just want to give a shout out to the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin-based since 1992, specializing in Packers tickets. They're Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Just click on the link in the video description that'll send you to their website, theticketking.com, where you can register for free as a customer and go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that's Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. All right, so first things first, I see the chat in here. A lot of people already following in. Got a couple of these starred. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on this Saturday morning, as I know there's going to be a great day of college football kicking off. I'm just about an hour 20 minutes north of Knoxville, and I know that's going to be a big matchup down there between Alabama and Tennessee. Obviously, the third weekend in October. That's something that's been legendary. It's always just been a part of everything Knoxville since I moved to Knoxville. I moved down to Knoxville, I guess it was 2000, 2001, and lived there for 6 years. And man, that third week in October, nothing else matters. It's awesome. You knew two things living in Knoxville, Tennessee, third week of October. It's one, first and foremost, Tennessee Bama week, and two, that's the best week to overseed your lawn. So that was the only two things that mattered that week. But obviously that's going to be a great game. And then you got Georgia, Texas tonight. So there's going to be a lot of good football on it. And I know some people are like, what's that got to do with the Packers? Now's the time of year when you get these big matchups that you want to key in on some of those top prospects. So what I would suggest everybody do is go to the consensus big board and go, okay, who are the top prospects at a position of need for the Packers? And, for me, I personally think we could probably use another interior defensive lineman, kind of get ready for the day that Kenny Clark is not here. Carl Brooks has been stepping up big. So that's a position I've looked at. Also, cornerback. You got Keyshawn Nixon who's starting to play on the boundary, because I think we would all agree it seems like Stokes is probably on his way out unless he turns it around this season. So if that's the case, you may need some depth at corner. We talked about that going into the last draft. We felt like we needed depth at corner. Obviously, the coaching staff disagreed. They passed up on seemed like some pretty good prospects. Now, it depends on where you go and how you're coached up, all those things, on whether someone actually succeeds. But, we obviously chose to pass on corner early, and now I think everybody would agree, like, oh, man, it probably wouldn't have been a bad idea to go get a corner. And what I mean by that is, you find somebody who fits your scheme and what you're looking for predominantly in the type of defense you want to run. And on top of that, we drafted Jordan Morgan, right? Well, you're seeing a rotation between Sean Ryan and Jordan Morgan. I'm not saying Jordan Morgan was a bad pick. I think he's going to be an excellent offensive lineman. We showed a couple of clips on the last episode where he was just absolutely dog walking people. Now, he's got his mistakes too, but if hindsight 2020, Sean Ryan playing his best football. Now, maybe he doesn't play his best football if you don't draft the first rounder to kind of, compete for his job. Who knows? But if you went the cornerback route, you may have been able to land a stud in this draft, and it probably wouldn't have been one of the big name players like the Quinyon Mitchells or the Kool-Aid McKinstries or those guys, because some of those guys are struggling. But you go through your scouting process and you find the guy that you like the most. And as we see with Jair Alexander, I don't remember anyone going, oh yeah, Jair Alexander's a first round corner. Maybe they were. I just remember way back then it was, who's this guy? Hold up, from Louisville. And then you dive into it and go, okay, yeah, I see it now, right? So you're probably going to be looking at the cornerback market. So key in on the top corners and what will potentially be next year's draft class, right? So that's the way that I like to look at college football personally, and there's a lot of big games on today. So definitely go and check that out as the day goes along here. Let's see here. Nick McSwain in the chat said, I heard the Texans are 26th in the league in turning the ball over, so 6th most interceptions / fumbles. Feel like it could be a day for the defense. I actually just checked that because that number kind of surprised me, Nick. And unless they're adding in that number that you heard, unless they're adding in something else as far as that number goes, here are the NFL team giveaways per game in 2024 through October 20th. or it says the date October 20th. So obviously it's through this more recent game here on Thursday Night Football between, what was it, the Saints? Can't remember the other team. The Saints played someone. Anyway, as far as NFL team giveaways per game, that means fumble and interception. If you look at it here, they're actually not best in the league at only 1.2. They're actually tied for, tied for ninth best in the league at only 1.2 giveaways per week. Now, if you see Green Bay, we're at 1.3, so we're slightly worse, if I'm understanding your comment correctly there. But that's at least what the team rankings website is showing currently. So they're actually pretty good at protecting the ball. If I'm looking at this correct, let's actually dive into interceptions and see how our boy CJ Stroud has been doing. Let's go interceptions thrown per game and make sure that number checks out. Yeah, Houston. So he's only throwing 0.7 interceptions per game, which ties him for 12th best in the league. The Packers obviously a little bit lower there at the 25 mark with 1 interception per game. So if we go to fumbles now and see if we could sort through that. This thing gets a little bit glitchy. I apologize. Let's just go fumbles per game rather than fumbles lost per game. Okay, that way we kind of sort that out. So yeah, they're 4th best in protecting the football there. So I'm not sure what that number entailed. There may have been some other things that were compiled there, Nick. But when you said it, I was like, "Whoa, that surprises me." And it seems like that may be inaccurate. So double check that, or if you want to post where it came from, all that good stuff. Nick also said, "Wish we didn't play at the same time as the Vikings and Lions." Amen to that, man. That's a game I really want to watch, and that's the beautiful thing about having like NFL Premium and NFL Pro and all that stuff. I think it's like $15 a month. I'm telling you, I would have that over any other subscription, me personally. I would have it over everything, PFF, everything, because I'm telling you, the tape is what's most important, and you get access to all that stuff for like $15, $16 a month. I think it's an absolute steal, personally. I love it, man. But the beautiful thing about that is you can go back and now watch those games, watch those replays, and even watch the all 22. You can watch just a condensed copy. If I've got a lot of stuff I want to do and I actually want to hear the TV broadcast of them breaking down what's going on the field, all that good stuff, then I'll listen to the whole broadcast. And you can actually, kill your phone. You know what I mean? Like go to the dark screen on it, just lock it, and still have that playing in the background. So that's how I kind of get caught up on some of those games. But there's some dandies this week too, man. I'm really excited for week 7. Quick shout out to NFL Nerding on Twitter. They are just one of the best follows all over X. They do stuff like this weekly. This is the week 7 preview for the NFL. Let me make a little note here, and I apologize for some of the dead air when I'm flying solo. I got to make show notes here as we go. Let's see, turnovers. All right. So NFL Nerdin puts this graphic out every week. So obviously it was the Broncos and the Saints. They dog walked the Saints there on Thursday Night Football. So tomorrow morning, the opening game is going to be at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Lambeau time. You're going to have the New England Patriots in London facing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay. Not a whole lot to take away from that game, but it's nice to have some football on in the background. I may not even watch it. What I might do is go ahead and put Houston's last 3 games on in the background as I'm kind of getting ready for the pregame show and all that stuff. So, and obviously the pregame shows themselves are excellent. I love Fox NFL Sunday. That's kind of my go-to. But all right, so in the 1 o'clock hour, you got the Bengals at the Browns, the Titans at the Bills. You got obviously the Houston Texans traveling to Lambeau Field for that 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff, 12 noon Lambeau time. I think the weather's supposed to be great, something like 72 degrees. Obviously, it's going to be the whiteout game, the winter warning game. Going to be really cool to see everybody dressed in white. And I want to mention this real quick, too. Somebody sent this over to me. I thought it was awesome. We'll get back to this graphic. Christopher Coleman on X said, "I wasn't originally a fan, but it's cool that the Packers all white helmets for this weekend are actually a throwback from 1956. So I didn't know this. And it says 51 through 64 types of helmets predate the familiar Packers helmet with the G logo. Riddell did not manufacture pocket pros for these helmets. They have varying types of face masks. See the checklist at the bottom. So it shows that the third one listed from 1956 through 58, they had a plain white helmet with a dark green stripe. So that's kind of cool that it's almost like a throwback there. Obviously, they didn't have a G on it, if I'm looking at it correctly, but still, going to be neat to see them wear that white throwback helmet. Now, I don't even know if I think they said Jordan kind of led the way in pitching this. I don't know if they even knew that, to be honest with you. I think they may have just kind of stumbled onto that, but I think it's awesome that they're wearing the all white unis. And I know there's some people that are traditionalists. I consider myself a traditionalist, but I like it when they change things up, man. And I know there's some people that are upset that aren't Packer fans, which is amazing that they're upset. And they're sitting around saying, "Oh, this is just a cash grab. This is just a cash grab." Welcome to the NFL. Everything's a cash grab. Tim knows what I'm talking about. Tim be spending money every day on the NFL product. Am I right, Tim?
What's up, Clay? Yeah, I spent a few dollars on the NFL products before, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Jordan Love did lead the way with the pitch. It could have been Cliff Crystal too that informed everybody that hey, by the way, we had a run of white helmets in the 50s.
Could have been, man. But shout out to Chris for making us aware of that. I thought that was awesome. So anyway, we were just kind of going through the weekly preview here. So Texans at the Packers are going to be wearing the all white unis. The whiteout game is going to be awesome. Then in the 1 o'clock hour, you've got the Miami Dolphins at the Indianapolis Colts. Then you got Philly at the New York Giants. And then, of course, the other great game, I can't wait to watch a replay on it, is the Lions at the Vikings. Is a 1 o'clock kickoff. It's a shame that they didn't flex that. And I don't know all the flexing rules, but when you look at the 4 o'clock window, well, first of all, Seattle, the Seahawks at the Falcons is a 1 o'clock game as well, a 12 noon game. I gotta keep saying 12 noon. I know these are all Eastern. Everybody kind of operates on Eastern time, but the majority of our fans are more, more interested in the noon time zone there. Which we got Packer fans that are listening from all over the world. It's so cool to look at the world map and see where people are watching the channel from. It's all the way across the globe. Yeah, I think we have one in Japan at one point. I'm like, we got somebody watching the show in Japan. How cool is this? But anyway, so that's your 1 o'clock window. What I was getting at is when you look at the 4 o'clock window, you got the Panthers at the Commanders, right? I mean, the Commanders are having a good year, don't get me wrong, but, I don't think anybody's like rushing to their TV to watch that matchup. You got the Raiders at the Rams. Nobody's,
the Raiders.
Now, the Kansas City Chiefs at the 49ers is going to be very interesting because I would not be surprised if the 49ers pop up after they've been getting beat up here lately and just knock off the Chiefs and give them their first loss. That would be awesome. But at the same time, that's one of those win-wins for me, Tim. If the Chiefs win, great. I hate the 49ers. That's awesome. If the 49ers win, it's like, great. I hate the Chiefs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I'm right there with you.
The daddy's so
win for us. I love it.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. So what I was getting at is like, obviously that 4:25 kickoff with San Fran and Kansas City, that's either going to be the Fox or the CBS game of the week there. Why not flex out that Detroit Lions Minnesota Vikings game and have kind of on the other network? That way you've got that in that 4 o'clock window. It just the NFL does a lot of things great, Tim. I think you would agree, right?
Yeah.
But for everything they do great, you have just little minute details like this, like what are we doing here? And it could have been the Packers flexed, right? Like the Packers Texans might be more appealing to some, maybe the majority of people than the Lions and the Vikings, although the record would suggest the Lions and the Vikings would be the more interesting game. But just the fact that you've got in that 4 o'clock window, the Panthers at the Commanders and the Raiders at the Rams instead of the Texans at the Packers or the Lions at the Vikings it's just crazy to me. Do you agree with that? It just seems weird.
100%. I agree. I mean, I look at Texans Packers. That could have been your Sunday night football game, primetime game this week too. But of course, what a coinkydink. We get Jets and the Steelers just in time for the arrival of Mr. Adams in New York over there. So I'm sure that'll hurt the ratings a lot on Sunday night football, right?
No doubt.
Viewership will be down for sure, right? Yeah, no. It's great. You're absolutely right, though. The league does so many things well, and then there's these things where you just like you kind of scratch your head at some of these matchups. But I don't know if you ever saw that NFL Films documentary on how they make the schedule.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like,
interesting.
So I'm gonna like not talk too much trash on the scheduling committee because it's something that's steeped in tradition that goes back to the old days when they were like pegboarding it up and using stickers and did everything by hand. And now it's just, of course, we've got the technology, which you would think makes it easier, but it still looks just as difficult. It's just a little easier for them to navigate, I guess. But you got to tip your cap to the scheduling committee to even pull this off every single year and get these matchups right. We've had a few primetime matchups that were kind of cheeks, but hey, there's a few teams in this league that are kind of cheeks. What are you going to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think you make a great point there. That documentary, I guess you call it a documentary. I seen it on NFL Network. It was like a special they aired. I think it's awesome. It's fascinating, and what a huge industry. God, the money that rolls in and out of this business is just absolutely wild to me. When you talk about just the amount of money that coaches have gotten paid and not even been coaching the team because their contracts are fully guaranteed, it's insane, man.
Yeah.
It really, really is. All right, let's see. There was something else I wanted to hit on real quick. I think it was a comment we had. Yeah, here we go. Jason Yu says, I'm watching from Japan. Usually can't watch these live. That's awesome, Jason. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for swinging through. Yeah, it was really cool. What we need to do is create an interactive map here where we got a pin dropped everywhere. There's a viewer or a listener that we can zoom in and show you, all right, here's where, and not, obviously we wouldn't have time to put all the names, but every time we get a new country, drop a new pin. You know what I mean? Would be really cool. So
that's
we
awesome.
need to do that. Yeah,
we'll start our own, our PTA international program, right? Just like the league, right?
That way you don't have to just be in the States to experience a show that sucks, right? You can do it anywhere in the world. That's the way that'll operate.
This show sucks worldwide.
Exactly. So moving on to the Sunday night game, like you had mentioned, the Jets at the Steelers. That's going to be a great test. I'm not going to lie, man. I'm excited to watch Aaron and Devontae play just to see if it's like, is that chemistry still there? You would think it isn't, and it would take some time to build that back up. But that's just two. You've got two first ballot Hall of Famers. I think we would agree is probably Devontae will probably be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Not 100% sure. Obviously, Aaron will. But you've got two Hall of Famers playing together against a traditional team like the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Probably going to be chilly, not game, that wind howling on that one end zone. It's just the way football's supposed to be played. I think that'll be a fun game for sure. And then Monday night, we get the doubleheader. We got the Baltimore Ravens at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's going to be a dandy. Tampa Bay is a team to really keep an eye on because they're having a pretty darn good year, man. They're 4-2, just like the Packers. If you look at the standings, which we'll talk about here in a minute, what you're starting to understand is you've got, I don't know what, maybe 4 to 5 teams that are in second place in their division or even third place in their division that have a shot to make the playoffs. So you're going to this is the time of the year, Tim, that I start to look at these teams that have a similar record and go, you know what? All right, we want to start rooting against that team. So for me, I'm a Baltimore fan Monday night, no doubt about it.
You have to be.
Yeah. And then you got the other one is the Chargers at the Cardinals. And, of course, we just knocked off the Cardinals, and the Cardinals sit 2-4. Doesn't have a whole lot of juice in that game for me.
Yeah,
so.
I'll be watching the Ravens Bucks.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to watch that. I'll watch the condensed version of the Chargers Cardinals game later, maybe.
If somehow, some way we get a plus 13 or more live betting, now
here we go.
I might tune in to the show. We'll see how it goes. Exactly. But let's go across the standings real quick throughout the league. In the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills are leading the way there at 4-2. The closest to them is the Miami Dolphins at 2-3. In the AFC North, you got the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, both with a 4-2 record. The Baltimore Ravens have the edge there as it currently sits. So that shows you Pittsburgh's playing damn good ball. If I heard correctly, too, I think Russell Wilson's going to be starting that game. So that's wild.
Here's the guy.
Blast from the past, especially with Justin Fields playing so good. It's just so odd. But in the AFC South, you got the Houston Texans are 5-1. Obviously, coming into Lambeau, it's going to be a great test, man. I mean, when you look at it, Tim, across the entire National Football League, there's 1, 2, 3 teams that have 5 wins. And this is one of them that's coming into Lambeau. And I know people go, oh, crap, what if they boat race? I don't care if they boat races. This is going to be a good measuring stick. I do care. I want the Packers to win, don't get me wrong. But this is a good measuring stick. All right, where is this team at? And they're really starting to create some momentum, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. Specifically, Jordan Love's starting to really amp it up, which is really exciting. But so the Texans 5-1, the Colts are 3-3. They're in second place, and everybody else is cheeks the rest of that division. So AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs are 5-0 still. You got the Chargers at 3-2, and then the Broncos are at 3-3. So it's somewhat one-sided there, but there's a couple teams trying to put themselves in a position to compete for that AFC West. In the NFC East, you've got the Washington Commanders at 4-2, Philadelphia Eagles at 3-2, and the Cowboys at 3-3. So the Eagles, I know people were kind of upset we lost to the Eagles earlier in the year, and I felt like it was a pretty close game, obviously. It came down to what should have been a last-second Hail Mary, but we didn't get it off. But the Eagles, I think the Eagles are a good football team. I didn't understand going into the year that everybody was talking, not everybody. Some people were just like, oh, they're trash. We're going to boat race them. And I'm like, man, I don't know. There's a lot of talent on that team, a lot of talent. And a lot of good coaches, too, that have now been kind of shuffled around the league. A lot of experience. Now, that don't always mean doesn't equal a win, right? You've got to get everybody on the same page operating as one. But the Commanders there, too, is wild that they're in first place. NFC North, obviously the Vikings 5-0. And you got the Lions 4-1, the Packers 4-2, the Bears 4-2.
The Bears still suck.
Hands down the best division in football, man. God, it's going to be such a good second half of the season, too, for the NFC North. And then when you look at the NFC South, you've got the Atlanta Falcons at 4-2, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 4-2. And obviously the Falcons have the slight edge there. And then the NFC West seems to be one of the stinkiest divisions in all of football. San Fran leading the way at 3-3, then Seattle 3-3, Arizona at 2-4. So really what you look at here, Tim, is if you just exclude all of the division leaders and you go, okay, who's in the running in the NFC for the wild card right now? It's wild to think that all four teams in the North could potentially make it. But as it sits right now, if the Bucs lose and everyone else in the NFC North wins, which we know that can't happen. Let's do it this way. Let's say that it still holds true, really. If the Bucs lose this week, right, and let's say the Lions even beat the Vikings, let's say that happens, or vice versa, it don't really matter. Then if the playoffs started today, the two wild card teams would be the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. That's crazy to think about, man.
Yeah, that is wild. I mean, the good news is for us NFC North guys that the Vikings or the Lions are going to lose. So one of these teams is going to catch an L, which is going to be good news, like you said, for us either way. Unless, of course, they pull off the improbable and end up with a tie. Yeah. That would tilt the division a little bit too, though. So kind of interesting, man. When especially on the NFC side, I mean, this is not a self brag or anything, but going into this season, I had really thought that two of my kind of dark horse teams were that could really make some noise were the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and here's both of them sitting at 4-2 here early in the season. The one that really caught me out of left field is the Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels and the boys over there. That's a shocker. Now, but you look at that, like you said, looking at a too early playoff picture kind of prediction here. I mean, the NFC East really looks still competitive. There are a lot of things can change in the next few weeks, depending on how the season plays out. But all eyes are on these NFC matchups because playoff spots are a premium, even with the additional wild card team. It's still going to be an uphill battle to get into the playoffs. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. Jason, you in the chat, I'm pretty sure this Japanese text here, Omer just deciphered it. Jason, you put in there, and it means this show sucks. So you got to love that, Tim. We're officially worldwide, my man. We made it.
I love it. Thank you for the translation, Omer.
Look at Omer's
French guy translating Japanese. I love it.
Look at Omer's new profile pic too. Check it out.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Omer, I need you to send me that. Is that
Tupac LaFleur and Suge Halfley?
Oh my God. Listen, Omer, send me that in a DM, bro. We got to add that to the show. That is magnificent, man. And if you stole it from if you got it from someone else, let's shout them out too. And like I said, shout out to Nerding on NFL for these awesome graphics every week. Everybody needs to be following Nerding on NFL. You got to. And tell them that PTA sent you. All right. All right. So Most passing yards in the league, you've got Geno Smith leading the way, then Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott. You got Kirk Cousins, and then you got Joe Burrow. Okay, most rushing yards in the league. You've got Travis Henry, Derrick Henry. I say it every time. Derrick Henry. You've got Mason from the 49ers, Chuba Hubbard, however you want to say it, for the Panthers. Then you got Saquon Barkley from the Eagles. And then, of course, Josh Jacobs from the Green Bay Packers is fifth in the league in rushing at 464 yards and 4.2 yards per carry. What you're noticing there, too, guys, is the yards per carry significantly less than everyone else on that top 5 list, which means they are pounding the rock with Josh Jacobs. It's these other guys probably getting far fewer carries. Maybe, I don't know, Derrick Henry, man, he's a workhorse. It looks like with 704 yards rushing right now, that dude is just –
I love how everyone was saying, like, oh, Derrick Henry's washed. He's getting old. He's number 1 in the league right now, rushing.
And they would not say it to his face, I guarantee.
No, guaranteed.
Most receiving yards. Here we go. Nico Collins for the Texans, guys, 567 yards. He's averaging 17.7 yards per reception. We got to face him this week, Tim. No, we don't, sir. He is on IR. That's huge. That is huge. You're talking about dodging a bullet. Nico is one of the great young players in the league. So he's still leading the league here, obviously, in going into week 7. Jamar Chase with the Bengals, 565 yards. He's second. Then you got Godwin with the Bucks, then DK Metcalf with Seahawks, and then CeeDee Lamb with the Cowboys. It is wild to think about that Dak Prescott, everybody's talking about how bad he's playing and how horrible the Cowboys are, and he's still third in the league in passing. And doing it with a pretty comparable yards per attempt outside of Brock Purdy, who's just had an insane 8.8 yards per attempt. Everyone else is hovering right there around that 7 mark. So there we go. And then most offensive yards per game as a team. You got the Ravens first, the 49ers second, the Lions third, and then the Green Bay Packers are in 4th place at 400 yards per game of total offense. Really cool there. And then the Commanders at 378. Least yards allowed per game. The Titans are still leading the league in yards per game at 248.8. I want to take a second here. And I don't want this to turn into a victory lap. I want to help people understand what I mean when I talk defense. You notice I don't put a big emphasis on yards per game or yards per play. It's like the 3rd or 4th metric that I get to, right? And really the total yards per game and even yards per play doesn't matter as much as the rushing or passing, because every week it's a different opponent you're playing. You might play at pass-happy offense. That's the key statistic that week, is how you slow down their passing game. Or if you're playing a heavy running team like the Baltimore Ravens, it's how you stop the run that week. It's being specific with your pass rush. Forget the sacks. Forget the pressures. The goal is to prevent the other team from scoring points, period, case closed. And that's why I always put at the top of the list points per play and points per game. And then you move on to what's the second most important? Turnovers created. And then after that, what is it? Now you can get into the yardage, the specific yardage, depending on the opponent that week. If you want to look at the total yards, just to get a kind of a global perspective of which teams are doing well. And I say that because of all the people that, but look at the yards they're giving up. They're giving up a ton of yards. Talking about the Packers. Okay, which one would you rather have? The Packers defense with the turnovers and far fewer points given up, or the Titans with 248.8 yards per game?
I'm taking the Packers all day.
Absolutely. And it doesn't mean you can't be a good defense and have great yards allowed per game numbers like the Jets. Good defense, solid top 5 defense at 273 yards per game, but it's not everything. Like the Texans, you can see they limit the explosive plays and keep the yardage per game down, right? It's just, now I would like to see here, I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I'm going to take a quick gander here and see what the scoring defense is, if I could find it, and where the Texans are sitting in points per play. All right, so on defense, Minnesota still leads in the LA Chargers, Denver Broncos, Pittsburgh Steelers, Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions, Kansas City Chiefs, New York Jets. Oh, check this out, Tim. The Green Bay Packers are now 9th in the league in points per play allowed. Absolutely huge. And I'm telling you, stop worrying about the pass rush. You can turn on the tape and see these guys moving laterally. You can see them run stunning. You can see, like we showed on that the last Chalk Talk, I think it was, or maybe it was a clip on Carl Brooks or whatever, pointing out, like, what's this guy, like it was Kenny. He's not going after the quarterback right here. He occupied a double team, and he's drifting to the side to take away that escape route. That is by design by Jeff Hafley, marrying up the coverage on the backside with the pass rush on the front side and making sure it doesn't get you exploited within the running game, and everything works together as a unit. That's why the numbers are down. The people, they got real quiet, Tim. The people that were piling on Rashawn Gary the first couple of weeks, 3 weeks in the season. He's washed, he's trash, he's not worth the money. You turn on the tape and you're like, bro, watch his assignment. Watch his assignment, right? It's very assignment sound. And all of a sudden, we're top 10 in points per play, and you're leading the league in takeaways and all these things, right? And they go quiet. You don't hear about them now. It's like, oh, that's what it was. Yeah, you can't look at a team that created significant pass rush last year and then go into the very next year and look at the same guys rushing the passer and go, well, all of their numbers are down. If all of their numbers are down, they must be doing something somewhat conservative right now to stay within the framework of what Jeff Hafley wants to use as the blueprint of his defense. I think it's huge. You just gotta understand that stuff, man.
Yeah, and if you don't, you're gonna naturally react the way people react, right? It's easy to look at the game, if you're watching it from your eye is on the ball instead of off the ball. Shameless plug, but it's easy to see like, oh, he's not getting home. The pass rush is weak, and it's like, well, you're watching one or two guys and what they're doing, and you're not looking at anything else, and that's why you're reacting the way you are. So, I'll take the pressure pick, coverage, sack mentality all day, left and right, and I'll take a defense that might give up some yards, but is averaging 2 to 3 takeaways a game at this point. It seems like, we've seen it we saw it in the Vikings game. I mean, gosh, talk about giving up yards and giving up points. But boy, did they create turnovers when they needed it. And boy, did that team get themselves right back in that football game. You have a defense like that. It's never say die, and you can never count the Packers out, because at any moment you're going to get one of those trademark Evan Williams, Mike Tyson punch outs. You're going to get the football back, or you're going to get a Xavier McKinney pick, or you're going to get a Rashawn Gary strip sack. It's coming. These things are coming. It's all a part of scheme, right? Like you said. I really love what Hafley does too, because just when you think you got him figured out, or he's slowly becoming predictable, it's like boom, you get a whole new look. You get different personnel, you get a different look. Like you said, we saw that psycho package, or whatever you want to call it, NASCAR package, whatever. We saw that peppered in. We went from hardly pressuring at all to holy crap, we're rushing 6, and we're all we're sending the dogs. And then we're falling back in coverage. We saw, like you said, a lot of Tampa 2 mixed in there, because we've got the athletic linebackers to do it, whether that's Quay or Coop back there. And it's refreshing, right? It really is refreshing. Change is only good if it's for the better. And clearly bringing Coach Haff in here is for the better. Defense looks great.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. And again, when we flash this up here, right? You're showing the Texans. If you looked at that, you go, oh, man, the Texans are a top 3 defense, right? That's what you would think, yards per game, right? Well, the Houston Texans, when it comes to points per play, are 21st in the league at .387. So I would rather have points than yards. That's just me personally.
Yeah. What do they put on the scoreboard at the end of the game? The total yards or the total points?
Yeah, and then I'm going to take a quick look at turnovers here. Takeaways per game and see where they're sitting. This might be the game changer here, right? When you talk about takeaways per game, Green Bay still leads the league at 2.8 takeaways per game. That includes fumbles and interceptions. What I love about takeaways per game is it filters out the fumbles that you didn't recover, right? Sometimes that can happen. Quarterback botches a snap, picks it back up, right? It's like, I don't want that convoluting the numbers. I want to know how many extra opportunities did we give our offense, right? And when you look for Houston's 14th, actually, tied for 14th at 1.2. So they're middle of the pack for takeaways. And for points per game, they're in the bottom third, right? And it doesn't mean the Packers should kill the Texans. It does not mean that, man. I'm telling you, any given Sunday, the worst team in the league can boat race the best team. We've seen it. I've been watching this game since late 80s, early 90s. My earliest memories right around 92, 93, where I actually was starting to understand, what's going on. That's how it's always been. And you can't give these other teams bulletin board material. You gotta treat every team with the utmost respect. So just because these numbers suggest, hey, the Packers probably have the edge here. They're also 3-point favorites. Some people have it at 2, 2.5. Others have it at 3, 3.5. Doesn't make a hill of beans other than here's where this game is kind of based right now.
Yep.
And it's important to hit on all that, really is. So let's see here. We'll keep that tab up in case we need it. Let's shift gears to the injury report real quick, if that's all right with you, Tim. Let me also do this team rankings real quick. All right. So with the injury report, a couple things changed here. Obviously, three things changed on the Packers side of things. With the toe, Kenny Clark went from limited to full participation yesterday on Friday's practice. Elton Jenkins went from limited to full participation with the knee. And then Josh Myers went from limited to full participation with the neck injury. So I think they said that was a stinger is what it was for Josh. That's why he went out and came back in. So thank God he avoided something there. Anytime you see neck, man, it makes me nervous. But as far as the game statuses, no one has a game status other than Dontavion Wicks, Kobe Wooden, and Devontae Wyatt, which means Dontavion Wicks and Kobe Wooden are both questionable. That's a 50-50 shot of playing. And then no surprise here with Devontae Wyatt not practicing all week, he is listed as out. And I think they might have looked at that tape of Carl Brooks and said, you know what, let's make sure Wyatt's completely healthy. All right. So that's your injury list for the Packers. If we shift gears to the Texans, you've got Al-Shaair, the linebacker. He is out with the knee injury. Let's see. Fatakasi, I think is how you say it.
Nice. Nailed it.
Defensive tech. No, I didn't, Tim. You know I didn't. He was limited on Friday. He's listed as questionable, so he's got a 50-50 shot of playing. Kamari Lassiter, cornerback with a shoulder injury, he's now officially out. Steven Sims, wide receiver with the back injury, did not participate. He's questionable. They rested him Wednesday, Thursday, or no, I bet it snuck up on him Friday is what it was. So he practiced Wednesday, Thursday, and then his back started bothering him. So he did not participate Friday. Now he's 50-50 shot. I would say my guess would be he wouldn't be playing, but who knows. Then you got the Henry. I still don't know how to say that name. I don't have
2020.
Is that just it? 2020?
2020.
Concussion.
I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
We talked about this earlier in the week. If he didn't start practicing by Thursday, he's probably not in the clear concussion protocol. He did not practice all week, so he is officially out. Laramie Tunzel was full participation there. He had an ankle injury last week, so he's good to go. That's arguably their best offensive lineman, I'm sure. Jimmy Ward, safety with the groin injury, he is listed as out now, and Robert Woods, wide receiver with the foot, is listed as out. Now, you don't see Nico Collins on here. Nico Collins has officially been placed on IR, so they're without Robert Woods and Nico Collins.
So get ready for the Joe Mixon show.
Yeah, the name of the game should be Let's Stop Joe Mixon. And how do you do that? Run stunt, playing conservative with your pass rush. Make sure you don't get too far upfield. Again, in the offseason, we talked about switching from the 34 jam to the 4-3 front, whether you want to run an under, over, however you want to look at it. If it is truly one gap in your base, if you're playing one gap in your base, the positive is you're going to get in the backfield easy. The negative is you're going to run right past the run a couple times. You've seen it. It was two games ago. I'm pretty sure it was Kenny Clark that did it. And then there was someone else, it might have been Kobe Wooden, ran right by the running back. And you can tell that Halfley backed off the throttle a little bit. Like, all right, let's make sure we're not giving up those explosives in the running game and play it kind of safe on the front. I think that's probably what you're going to see here trying to stop Joe Mixon. Now, listen, C.J. Stroud, one of the great young quarterbacks in the league. D'Amico Ryans is going to have that defense ready to play. But I think on the surface, based off this injury report with Robert Woods and Nico Collins being out, probably need to focus on stopping the run. So
I would agree. And we got to be on our P's and Q's right out the gate. I watched, courtesy of Clayton, I watched a lot of NFL pro footage of that Texans Patriots game. And I'll tell you, man, one thing I noticed is Houston comes out to play, man. They don't F around at all. They are marching down the field, moving the ball right away. So this would be a game to me. If we win the toss, we take the ball, put our offense out there, try and get up early. If we end up, starting on defense, we got to start fast and we got to start discipline because Joe Mixon is a problem, man. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's a problem. And, seeing that we've got, Laramie Tunsil's probably going to go, right? Full participant. He's going to play. If their line is clicking, we've got to, like you said, we have to account for that run game with CJ Stroud being down two targets there in the offense. And then the other thing that I wanted to say that stood out on tape is Mr. Schultz, Mr. Dalton Schultz. We've got to keep an eye on him. Kind of became a favorite target of Stroud down the stretch in that Patriots game last week, getting a lot of targets. So we got to start fast on defense, man, because injuries or not, Houston is going to be a team they're going to show up and they're going to put the pedal to the metal from quarter one right away. And we know this Packers team has had a brief history here of starting off kind of slow in these ball games, and we cannot afford to do that against the Texans.
Yeah, definitely. And, listen, just because Robert Woods and Nico Collins are out doesn't mean they don't have good receivers either. Yeah. Their big strength in adding Stephon Diggs this offseason, it put them in that category. They might have the best wide receiver core in the entire league. So they still got Stephon Diggs, and they still got Tank Dell. Now, Tank Dell is grading out as the 67th highest graded wide receiver in the league. So obviously he's not playing like a true number two. But Stephon Diggs 15th in the league according to PFF. So he's still got that gas in the tank. So you got to be aware of that. Obviously, just play your game, man. Yeah. Keep playing, like you have here recently, and keep pick your spots when you want to be aggressive. I think that's what Hafley has done really, really well. You keep that up, I think you're going to be just fine. Go ahead. Tim.
I was just going to say it'd be interesting to see how what the Texans game plan is, because from what I saw, man, it was strange because they looked very similar to our offense last week. I saw a ton of condensed sets all day. They were running condensed sets. I don't know if that's going to be the same approach against the Packers, but you got to think so, right? If they may lean on the run, and there's still weapons there. Like I said, you got Schultz in the tight end position, and you've got like you mentioned, Stephon Diggs. You can't forget about Stephon Diggs out there at all. I'm looking forward to seeing. Hopefully, Jair will block Schultz into Diggs like he did a few years ago when he blocked Adam Thielen right into Diggs in the Vikings game. I don't know if you guys remember that one. One of my favorite Jair highlights of all time.
Awesome, man. Blew the whole play up.
Yeah.
Looked like it was a smoke screen, and Jair read it and just took his lead blocker right into the pass catcher. It was amazing.
We always talk about that Jair-Justin Jefferson kind of rivalry. Hey, there is a Jair-Stephon Diggs rivalry. I don't know if I'm going to go as far as to say it's bad blood or anything, but them dudes – on the football field, they do not like each other. So
that's the one too. I think that where Stephon Diggs ran out of the tunnel with the Packers, and he found Jair and was jawing with him, and then they asked Jair afterwards, and he said, "What did you say to Stephon Diggs?" I just told him he's a little boy, something like that. He just changed the subject. It was great. For those of you listening on the pod, that's going to do it for hour one. We will see you on the other side for hour two. We appreciate y'all.